This Late Night Linux Family podcast is made possible by our patrons. Go to latenightlinux.com/support for details of how you can join them. Support us on Patreon for access to ad-free episodes and early releases. That's latenightlinux.com/support. Hello and welcome to episode 115 of Linux After Dark. I'm Joe.
I'm Chris.
I'm Gary.
And I'm May.
Welcome back all. We love our hardware on this show. We've done various challenges of buying old Linux computers and everything, and we all have a stack of laptops, and that isn't even a joke. But our way of life has been threatened, very seriously threatened by so-called shortages of RAM, which I don't believe, and now even storage. The prices of both have gone through the roof. So what are we going to do about this? What's our survival plan?
So I was thinking about this, and obviously the flippant answer for all of us is, well, we have a stack of hardware, so we just pick the next one down. But it's not like that, I don't think. And I want to give you two examples of why it's not like that. I was speaking to a friend of mine about this, and that was the plan. Just use what I have. Of course, his NAS breaks, and he has not got the spares that he needs to repair it. To fix it, he has to buy something. So what does he do? Wait it out, not have the thing, pay the inflated price? What are you going to do? The other example is my wife at her job said her work computer was slow. She doesn't have any IT department, which makes me furious all the time. And I asked her to send me the specs. It's running Windows. It had 8 gigs of RAM, 12th gen i5, 6 cores, 12 threads, but someone had spec'd it with 8 gigs of RAM. And I said, that's not enough, but good luck getting any. As it turned out, someone in the office had a drawer full of RAM that was just there with absolutely no clue. I said, how the hell has he got like 4 or 5 sticks of RAM? So, oh yeah, they're just in the office. But most people don't have that. When people come and ask for advice, what are we going to do? And you can't just say, I'll just find something. That's not the answer. You don't have the something. What are you going to do?
Well, more importantly, you're not having it. I was thinking about giving my T480 to my brother because he kind of could do, he's got a laptop, but it's like really old and terrible. And I was thinking, should I give him this one? And I'm thinking, no, it's got 16 gigs of RAM in it. I'm keeping it in case I need it.
Well, yeah, that's nice for you. But what about when people come and ask you, you know, my laptop is bust. What shall I do? And I've had people say that to me recently. Somebody dropped their laptop. And I was like, this is literally the worst time I can remember in my life to repair or buy that. And they couldn't understand what I was saying. I was saying, no, you don't understand. And I had to show them graphs and pictures. It's actually a very, very difficult situation to navigate when you need to buy something that you don't already have in the house. Would you pay, for example, £120 for RAM you could have got for £35 last year? And I'm not saying in an optional situation, you need to get the RAM to get something working again. What are you going to do?
I guess you really have no choice, don't you? You got to do it if you got to do it.
Yeah.
Retailers aren't competing against themselves from 6 months ago. They're competing against each other right now. So that was then, this is now. This is just where we are, and fuck everything about it, but it's where we are.
But there's not even a shortage. Like,
No.
if you go to various websites, it's all available, but just with massively inflated prices.
Well, you've just got to pay it, haven't you? Like, if you need the RAM now and your computer's died and you need a computer, just have to pay the price.
Well, the only thing I have noticed is people that don't know what they're selling as a unit are still lowballing themselves secondhand. So if you look on eBay, new computers on eBay, Amazon, AliExpress are being sold storageless, RAM-less. You know, bring your own, hoping that people will buy, thinking, oh yeah, I've bought RAM before. But pre-built old stuff that people that don't really know anything about computers are selling, you can still buy laptops and computers with all that stuff in that people are just selling as like house clearance for the cost of the RAM in it from elsewhere. But then you end up with more computers than you need.
Well, some of the manufacturers also haven't caught up, right? So I, in the last few weeks, bought a new laptop, anticipating that this is going to be a thing. And Lenovo certainly hadn't caught up at that point with the pricing of the RAM. So the laptop has 64 gigs of RAM, but the cost to buy 64 gigs of RAM is now 2/3 what I paid for the laptop.
Well, most of the industry has long-term buying agreements, so they're still getting that for the price that they were in a lot of cases.
Yeah, or still have the stock, right? I'm sure Lenovo aren't just buying RAM as they need it. They probably have quite a lot of it on the shelf already. I mean, I did mention to someone today, actually, that it would almost be worth me buying the extended warranty, because one dead stick of RAM or one dead SSD would actually probably pay for the cost of the extended warranty in one go.
I think the tricky thing as well is that it is trickling into other devices, though. Already, smartphones, regardless of our quibbles with what we get to run on them and everything else, but buying the actual hardware in the first place, brand new, even if it's got soldered RAM, the prices are going up. And then when they're speccing new models, they're using this paradigm to reduce the amount of RAM that they're putting into new handsets whilst increasing the prices. And singable computers, all sorts of stuff. They are putting into the pricing this increase, which I genuinely don't think is going to go away for the rest of this year, unless there's a large precipitating shift, which I wish would happen, but I don't think is going to happen.
Well, that's already starting with this year's models of the lower end phones. I mean, for example, the Moto G, which I know is a lower end device. The model from this year has an SoC that is lower performance and still only 4 gigs of RAM compared to the device from 2 years ago. So how is it going to be in the flagships? I don't know. Are they just going to jack the price to 1,200 quid, 1,500 quid? Because people aren't going to pay it.
I think that for a lot of devices, buying used is still working. I just searched for the XPS 139370 with 16 gigs because that's what I last had, and it's not a great price, and people keep removing the SSDs from them for some reason. But it's okay. It's all right. The things with soldered RAM are still going for what they were before.
Yes, I think what this has caused is a rush on things you can strip, basically. That's what is starting to happen. I know I mentioned you can still buy from people that don't know what they're selling, but then people that do know what they're buying are buying, stripping, and then trying to sell bare bones. Whereas you can't do that with phones, tablets, or soldered down devices. So that's maybe actually smarter in the short term. But it's not a great place to be in. Like, I wouldn't want to be running my residential repair business at the moment because it's absurd. Like, I'd be like, oh, what's the labor? What are the parts? What? You'd be like, but that's what it costs. Oh, I won't do it then. That would be it.
Well, that's only it until the prices of the stuff start going up to the point where actually it looks reasonable to spend 120 quid on a stick of RAM.
I know, you're absolutely right, May. You don't have a time machine. You can't go back. But it just smarts so much. The stuff that we've talked about for the last year on this show, the little Proxmox box I bought, I paid £40 for 2 16-gig secondhand DDR4 SODIMMs.
I did that for $13.
Yeah, you're having a laugh if you think you can do that now. And I can't let it go. It would hurt so much to pay 120 quid for something that was that cheap, just like last September.
Well, see the L380 that I bought, that I put 32 gigs of RAM in just because I had the RAM laying around. That machine is now worth a fortune.
So are we buying the whole thing that this is the World Economic Forum trying to make it so that we can't own anything anymore?
No. It's just corporate greed, isn't it? The RAM wafer manufacturers got a bunch of fake pre-orders from the likes of OpenAI to go in machines that don't exist, to go in data centers that don't exist, to supply a demand that doesn't exist. So everyone panicked, or rather saw a great opportunity, hiked the price up, and now you've got a load of RAM that's in stock everywhere that's like 3 and 4 times the price that it used to be a few months ago.
I mean, we have been here before with waves of pricing, haven't we? I mean, when people were mining cryptocurrency like mad, GPUs went bonkers and then dropped down again. But it just feels like we haven't even mentioned GPUs, but it is across the board, RAM, GPUs, and storage all at the same time, which is kind of, even 1 terabyte SATA SSDs are £100 now. They were like £40 last autumn. So that's why I think it's pinching so much. GPUs, when they went up for cryptocurrency, get an APU, spec a machine, wait it out, maybe buy a decent GPU when it's gone through. But when it's like 3 key elements of components, that's when it's starting to hurt, I think. So what would you do if somebody came to you and said you have to repair, but they didn't have the money? What's smart is, obviously, with my happy hat on, I'd say you install Linux on a machine, because Windows now, you can't give them a version on an old computer that runs. So maybe it's a slight opportunity, but the year of the Linux desktop, that's what pops into my head every single time when I think that.
Well, maybe, because you could run a Linux machine on, say, an X270 with, say, a 6th gen i5 and 4 gigs of RAM. It wouldn't be pleasant, but you could do it. Whereas you could not run Windows on that machine.
You'd have to be really, really frugal with multitasking. But yeah, it would be a much more pleasurable experience. I mean, ultimately, I think that's what I would do if someone came. I'd say, look, let's say their RAM and SSD is fritzed or whatever. Say you're going to spend like £200, and yes, you could buy a new laptop, but that's going to be £300-400. Or you could, for the time being, run this alternative operating system and at least give it a go.
I've just been looking on eBay for ThinkPads with no RAM, and I've found an E14 Gen 2, which is a 10th Gen i7 with 16 gigs of RAM and a 512 SSD. Starting price of $49.99, ends in 5 days. Surely that's not going to last at 50 quid.
If you put like a fixed price on your search, you can still get full computers with 8 gigs of RAM and 256 gigs of storage for 50 quid. And if you look in the component section, the same 8 gig RAM sticks are going for 40 quid. So you would obviously buy the computer. But the worry is that if things don't change, that only has a certain amount of legs in it before a lot of the computers in the lower price point are devoid of storage and RAM, and everything has been shifted into the other basket.
Yeah, and what I am seeing in my eBay search for similar ThinkPads, Joe, is that people are selling them with the bare minimum RAM in. Now, there are a lot of T450s, T460s with only 4 gig of RAM in, and I don't think Lenovo ever shipped them with that small of an amount of RAM.
Right.
So people are clearly removing a couple of sticks from machines and then selling them separately, would be my guess.
Man, Lenovo doing that thing with the S line where they put some of the RAM on the motherboard really saved people now, didn't it?
Yeah, you just take the 8 gig stick out and leave the 8 gig on board and sell it. Fine.
Yeah, but at least it's a working computer then.
Well, yeah.
Well, it's like my X1 Carbon, 8th gen i7 in that, and 8 gigs of soldered RAM. That always felt like a bit of a downer to only have 8 gigs of RAM, but at least it's in there forever now and no one can take it out.
What are we going to do for challenges, Joe? That's my worry. Last year, we had £50, £20.
Think of the content.
Yeah, you're having a laugh. What are we going to do? It's going to be what can we do with what we have?
It's going to be the use your computers challenge.
Well, that's absolutely fine because the computer I got for £20 last year has got 32 gigs of DDR4. So I'll be all right.
You need to sell it. You have to sell it, surely.
I should probably sell the RAM separately and keep the computer.
Well, yeah, I mean, you could put 8 gigs in that and it'd be fine for just, a travel beta. You don't need to have 32 in there.
Well, I was thinking about the Precision desktop that I got for one of the challenges.
Oh, yeah.
So
which is the one that was in the rain?
that was that one, yeah.
Yeah, there we go. So a rain-soaked gold mine you've got there.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't want to rely on the computer, but I could certainly sell the RAM out of it. Good idea, Chris.
Well, my challenge machine that I bought, which was a £20 Optiplex, in a pinch, that could be my on-site backup or my off-site. And then I've got the other Optiplex, which is slightly older but uses less power because it's only an i3. That could be an off-site backup, say, and my on-site could be promoted to be my main NAS. So my pile of computers are starting to look like a good insurance policy to me.
Yes, in our circle, let's say, that's definitely what I would do. Don't forget, one of our esteemed co-hosts claims that he could run his daily driver as a Core 2 Duo.
And that was years ago. Stop it.
That was about a year and a bit ago.
It was a year ago, Gary.
It was longer ago than that.
But it would be sad if one of the computers I liked using was fairly modern broke. But I would just go back through an era and kind of deal with it. It's usable quite far back, I think, as long as you're running Linux.
Yeah, I'd say that this, in terms of resilience, is kind of one of the places where a lot less is required. Not only of us, but I think that if someone is panicked looking for a computer, it's certainly possible to find one still, just maybe not for the spec that you'd want. There are other cases of resilience that are less easy to solve right now, for sure.
I have been in a similar situation for recommending to people what they should do during the pandemic, when I was fielding quite a lot of calls, because if you remember, you couldn't get computers just because of the work from home demand. So people were buying them faster than they could stock them. And one of my wife's friends, who was in France, sort of trapped in a smallish town, said, "Oh, I can't get a laptop." And I was like, yeah, the whole world wants laptops and you can't get any. He said, can I video call you from a supermarket? I was like, a supermarket? He said, yeah, they have some laptops, but they were some of the funniest stock. She was like, what do you think of this one? I was like, right, show me the spec label. So it's got a 17.3-inch screen, 720p, 4 gigs of RAM. Like, I was like, what the hell is this? Where have they found this stock from that they're just pulling out? And it was like a Polaroid or some really weird brand. But she bought it because I was like, do they have anything else? No, basically no. This is all they've got. I was like, well, I mean, it's a computer, I guess. Like, it will turn on.
That reminds me of the Kodak SSDs that are just clearly just terrible ODM ones from China that they've put the Kodak logo on.
What's the one you buy in Aldi? Median, I think, is the laptop brand. And it wasn't pleasurable, but after everything had settled down again, I went to her house and I said, is that laptop you bought? She said, yeah. How is it? It's like, well, it was crap, but it was a computer. Like, I was able to function at a time when I really needed a computer. So people adapt, I guess.
I do think it is a win for Linux, though. As we've said, like, there's kind of a confluence of events happening. The end of Windows 10, rendering a lot of old hardware not capable of running Windows 11, and also the price hikes in components, means that people are going to be stuck using shit old computers. And people don't really like to have that image of Linux anymore as like being able to rescue shit old computers. But I do think that it is one of the great things about it.
So we're saved by make, do, and mend. That's it.
Yeah. Make do with Linux and mend it with 4 gigs of RAM. There you go. Put that on the fucking poster.
Yeah. So there you go. You know, it's a positive movement. But I'm looking forward to next time Joe comes up with one of his late night ideas and says the £200 challenge.
Yeah, exactly. The £1,000 challenge.
I can buy 1 stick of RAM. Great.
I mean, it would be funny to do a £20 challenge again now. We're not going to do it, but like maybe we should do a sort of not actually buy it challenge, but, you know, find something for £20.
As I say, I feel like this is going to continue throughout this calendar year. I really wish it wasn't going to, but I think you're right, Joe, in a way. It's kind of a manufactured scarcity, but that's how it works, isn't it? It's like farmers with lettuces. The minute the sun shines in England for 5 seconds, suddenly the supermarkets historically have said, you know, oh, everyone's going to have a barbecue. By the time the lettuces arrive for the shelves, it's raining again. This is how the world works now. It's terribly depressing, but it's not going away because the orders may as well be real in terms of the fact that the way the world is reacting to them. And even if there is like a great shift, you're not suddenly going to get those wafers back, but they're going to come kind of lurching back and go, oh yeah, nobody's buying anything. Maybe we should think about dropping the prices again because it's a bit silly. But it's going to take time for a reset to happen.
We'll also have a lot of places that stockpiled hardware that are going to be getting rid of it too. I think there are a few places around here that have hardware to, say, auction off, and they just aren't doing it. So It'll be interesting when we actually come down from the high.
For a good couple of years there, I was really looking forward to buying old ThinkPads pre-Windows 11. And then we get to this point and now they're not cheap anymore because of this ridiculous shit. Maybe the thing to do is buy a bunch of bare bones and then just wait for the storage and RAM prices to drop.
I mean, if you're looking to collect, yeah, that'll be fine. The only thing that's sure is change, so whatever, something new and interesting is going to happen, I'm sure.
Quantum.
Well, interestingly, DDR3 is still cheap. So really old machines are still cheap. So maybe that's the thing. Just go for proper antiques.
I've noticed that some of the kind of smaller YouTube channels that I still follow for kind of budget gaming are doing that because they can't get the DDR4 and above. They're buying like 4th gen i5s, i7s, and then getting DDR3 RAM and the best graphics card they can and benchmarking it because, and so there's some surprisingly decent performance for stuff like Cyberpunk. If you get a good graphics card, I don't know, we get caught up in a bubble of advancement, but depending on what you're doing, I think you can go back.
NVIDIA accidentally made good graphics cards during the 10 series, and they'll never make that mistake again.
But yeah, those older machines, maybe not the mobile processors, but the desktop machines of that era, yeah, they're a little bit juicy when it comes to power usage, but they are fairly capable, again, running Linux.
4 cores, 8 threads, you'll be fine in a lot of stuff, especially if you're going back a little bit in terms of gaming. So, you know, make, do and mend. I return to it. I think that's where we have to go.
Well, on that optimistic note, we should probably get out of here then. We'll be back in a couple of weeks, but until then, I've been Joe.
I've been Chris.
I've been Gary.
Only way out is through.
See you later.